Hello everyone. In today's video, I thought we'd answer an interesting question of something that I was seeing poking around in the forum. So for those who keep track on the command forum, one of the things I've been seeing was this a little official update to Beyond Visual Missile Performance. And I was kind of following through it and just kind of my ideas sort of back and forth. And they had some really, really fun, like, charts and graphs and some really, really interesting information on it. But basically, the arguments came down to, first of all, that the missiles, when they burned out, it was unfair for the airplane originally because, of course, you wouldn't have a good warning. The other thing they were arguing about was the fact that the aircraft was able to basically accelerate too quickly out of the way of the missile, which, okay, fine. Another argument people were saying was things along the lines of, well, our aircraft now is able to see the missile, even though probably the pilot could not see the missile. And then, of course, they were also talking about the fact that the missile itself would be detectable on the aircraft's radar, even though it's not something that should theoretically be possible. So I took all these things together and I said, well, this sounds like something I could play with. So what I'm going to do in today's video is we're actually going to take a look at both DCS World as well as Command Modern Operations, and we're going to kind of compare them side by side and kind of see what happens. Fortunately, both sets of these tools do have TAC view, so we'll be able to actually watch real time getting splattered. So let's go ahead and create the base scenario first. So we have our F-16 here, and he's approaching this SA-2F. Now, this crew is a really, really talented crew. If I were actually to flip over to Red 4 real fast, we've already started to acquire a little bit of that bogey, so we have a pretty good early warning here. We're identifying its radar. I'm just going to flag them as hostile immediately. Apparently, in DCS, there are no IFF challenges. They just know you're the bad guy. So we're going to continue approaching, and we're going to see what happens here. So that radar down there is happily, busily chirping away, firing its little electronic beams into the sky. And it's just a matter of time to see exactly what happens once we get a little bit closer here. There we go. So we got no fire control warning. I think we're within its engagement range in a few moments. Now, keep in mind, we're not using a no escape zone launch here. We're using a conventional launch. So as soon as the thing gets in range, it should go ahead and pop a shot off. So I'm really not surprised, depending on who this crew is. They're going to wait, or they're going to go bang as fast as they can. So there it is. They're entering into the danger zone there. There's the weapon. So we've immediately acquired the fact the missile is launched, and we can see that missile. Now, you're probably, let me go ahead and pause real quick here. Make sure I'm not on God's Eye view real fast. God's Eye should be switched off. I want to make sure, yeah, it's disabled. Good. So we can see this missile right away. How do we see this missile? We actually see this missile through our radar, which is the first thing, at a staggering 26.2 nautical miles. The other thing we do is we can now cue our sensor. This is our little sniper pod at that particular missile. So right now, we're able to see it from a really, really far away with the radar, and we're able to see it really, really far away from the FLIR, which is, whoo, that's a fast finger twitch in there. So our F-16, of course, is he's not stupid. So what he'll do is he should be turning himself around and getting the heck out of there as fast as he can. Because if he continues on this course, there he goes. Now he's turning around and he's running. So we'll take a look at the speed he's achieved here. He's doing about 550, picking up some pretty quick speed. We just want to take a look at maximum range here. Yeah, we don't even see the missile anymore. We just know it's behind us somewhere. Starting to pick up a lot of speed. He's starting to beam. It was quite a bit. And unfortunately, he didn't do that correctly because the weapon is still... now he ran the thing right out of energy. And now he's able to reacquire it visually with his radar so he can see it again. And he's like, whoopsie daisy, I probably should have got my speed up a little bit and turned around. So there's a really, really tight turn. And now he's just going to jam on the accelerator as fast as he can. And you can see he's picked up 6.7, Mach 1.2. That was pretty substantial acceleration on this guy. He was able to get out of the way really, 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 really fast. Our weapon is still persistent. We're still within its effective range here, so he's going to turn back into it. See the weapon again, turn around and just burn away from it. And now the weapon, of course, has been defeated in that case. So a couple things we can unpack right away. First of all, we were able to detect the incoming missile both visually as well as with our radar. The other thing we were able to do is basically just turn and run whenever we needed to run away from it. So when we try this over in DCS in a moment, we've got a couple kind of baselines in which to operate at. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and tweak this scenario just a teeny tiny bit and see what happens when we remove a couple of those elements, what happens. All right, we've gone ahead and tweaked our F-16 a tiny bit here. So in this case now, our F-16 buddy has his radar switched off. And more importantly, what I've done is I've removed his radar warning receiver. That's that's bad news for this F-16 right here, because he's going to have no knowledge at all that there's going to be a launch on him in this particular case. So we'll go ahead and proceed just like we did last time. We'll go speed up time a little bit here. He's going to fly into the danger zone here, and he's going to, of course, get launched on, but he's going to have to identify the missile visually. Now, theoretically, he could use his pod to do that, especially if he's looking in the general direction. There's a launch. And we should get no warning whatsoever of that launch, which is correct. There's no way we would have seen it, except for the distinctive white finger of death that you will see most likely in DCS when we try this out a little later on. So the aircraft's cruising completely blind. Like I said, I shut his radar off. He can only use his eyeballs, and we picked it up. So let's see. This was picked up by our little sniper pod here. So again, that little device that we have up on our wingtip was able to pick that target out at about a 20 nautical mile range. Now, the interesting thing is if you actually take a look at that sniper pod, everything makes a lot more sense here. So if I open this sucker up real fast, let's see here. Let's see. Boop, pop that one real fast. That's what it looks like. You can see that our maximum range is 20 nautical miles. That is our search range. So we're actually able to acquire this visually using our handy-dandy pod here, which now means our F-16 buddy can, of course, turn around once he realizes he's being engaged here. So speed up time. Here comes the missile. We're going to turn and burn. Let's see how fast he got up to here. He's pushing, that's 918 knots. He did that in about 5-6 miles. Wow, that's some massive acceleration. And he's going to go turn around. He's going to look up. There it is again. And he's going to go do this thing where he's going to turn and go, whoa, and run for his life again. So that was some massive acceleration on his part. So let's set it up again, but this time pop that pod off. Alrighty then. So now he's making his way towards the target. He has no radar turned on. He has no radar warning receiver. He also has none of those fancy pods that enables him to have that incredibly good view there. So he's cruising into the range. Like I said, the last time he's flying into the danger zone. So he comes flying in. We're going to get launched on any second now. Any second. Oh, that's right. I have to tell him that he's a hostile target. And one big thing about DCS is it's like, oh, good enough, fire. And this is what it's like, we got to get within range here. So any moment he'll go ahead and fire there. And he's got to lock on. Oh, there it goes. So our F-16 buddy is completely clueless to the presence of that weapon. He's basically cruising. He's cruising. Like I said, in DCS, we will see the white finger of death there before it comes in. Still clueless. Still clueless. Oh, pause. All right, so we visually acquired, I would assume visually, from a distance of about 6.4 nautical miles here. That's pretty substantial. That's pretty substantial. So our F-16 buddy, not being stupid, flips himself around, and he's going to stomp on his gas pedal and get going as hard as he possibly can. That's 900 knots right there. 785. He still has some visual on it. Again, the greatest thing about the F-16 ever is that you have that wonderful bubble canopy, and he's pushing 1.3 right now, which is, he's moving. And our missile's still trying to chase him down. But again, he's still holding that 1.3 pretty steady, which is really impressive acceleration for this guy. And again, we'll see what happens when we get over to DCS. Look at that. He's just running it in a circle. Show off. And he does a beautiful job of it. All right, so a couple conclusions, though, we can see right away. First of all, the radar has an incredible ability to see those projectiles from long distance. We can definitely test that in DCS. Visual detection, we can definitely test that in DCS. And, of course, turning around and hitting the gas as hard as we can, that is definitely something we can try out in DCS, and we certainly will. So without further ado, and here we have our setup. We have our handy-dandy F-16, basically the same aircraft over here. And due east of it, we have a handy-dandy Butumi here, which is going to be acting as kind of our little point. We've set up a nice little SAM battery. It's got like all the good stuff here. You've got this tracking radar in the middle. You've got the search radar. You've got a bunch of engineer vehicles. So a bunch of different things we're going to try out here. The first thing, of course, we're going to see what happens, just sort of the default. We're going to try to do a 180 and outfly the missile. And like I said, we're going to experiment with it. One thing worth noting, though, and this is kind of a difference here, is sort of our ranges are a little different than the Open Command. So one thing I will change, just for the sake of saving us a little bit of time here, is instead of doing that 50-mile radius, we'll come up right on the edge here. So we have a little less kind of flying around time. But you'll see what I mean. Alrighty then. Whoops. It's one of the fun things DCS always does to me. All right, so we're on our way. Now we're in this lovely F-16. This is easily my favorite fighter in history. I really have not found another aircraft that I like better than the F-16. It's incredible. Whoop, I'm getting a warning here. It looks like a SAM-2 is looking right at us there. We're going to go ahead and take my radar now, and we're just going to actually tip the pitch of the radar down quite a bit because I want to have a really, really good look at it in the event that it does launch on us and see whether or not we can see. I don't think we have a 6-bar in an F-16. Yeah. So it's right off my 12 o'clock. You can see the thing happily chirping away there, waiting to fire. And what we'll do when we get launched on is we'll do pretty much the standard maneuver to escape it there. That's its tracking. There, people are working us out. You can see we're just entering into the threat radius now. And that's what I was waiting for. Now, the dumb mistake to do would be to go ahead and do a 180 with a turn. If we do a 180 with a turn, what you're going to have instead is you're going to hit a situation where the aircraft is basically going to be completely out of energy when it finishes the turn. But what I'm doing instead is I'm doing an aggressive dive with a zoom climb maneuver. Nice 4.2 there, and we're going to get a bunch of ups in a second. And we're just going to finish up the turn. We're doing about Mach 1 right now. Come on. All right. And we're on the way. So as I promised, you probably see the little white fingers. Yep, you can see the white fingers. If you look really, really carefully, right where my tail is, right to the left of my tail. See those two little white lines? Those are the warnings that have been fired at this particular point. So we're crashing, or we're going as fast as we possibly can. We're just pushing Mach 1. So we're definitely not going that fast here. Come on. Oh, they just switched back over to the tracking radar here, and there are no more missiles fired at us. Okay, so that was interesting already. Go ahead and back out of Afterburner here. So one thing we saw is that once we exceeded that kind of a maximum range, it seems like they stopped trying to try to hit us. So once that thing just kind of burned out, and we can go check that out in the TAC view as well. All right, so now we're over in TAC view. Let's see exactly what happened. That was a pretty sloppy turn on my part. All right, so we went forward, just like we did before. They actually fired very early. Look at this. We were outside of their threat radius completely. So I did my 180 here. This is, again, one of the big differences between flying this one in command. Is in command, you'll do the regular turn. There's my defensive stuff. You can see those missiles immediately go to the thicker part of the atmosphere and start wasting time. I start burning like this. We got to about Mach 1.0 here. These guys are doing about Mach 1.3. So they actually slowed down really quick here. And since I'm in the thick part of the atmosphere, yeah, I'm kind of belching fuel. Look at that. Those guys did not even come close. Let me go ahead and pause real fast. Let me back it up just a teeny tiny bit here. So you can say they literally hit the maximum range here. And I don't know if that's a DCS limitation or what, but this one did not get going too fast here. And you can see very, very clearly. I'll put my little laser pointer on here. Right there as it started to burn itself out. Yeah, right there. So it hit the maximum range. It was no longer able to continue. And that was Mach 1.2 when it finally gave up chase here. So you can see no difficulty in escaping that missile, even though, yeah, my top speed was about Mach 1.02. So definitely did not achieve, 960 knots or anything like that. But I was still able to defeat the missile with the same maneuver. So the next thing we're going to try to do is see what happens when we try to use the radar to detect one of these. All right, again with feeling, as I always like to say. So we have the same scenario this time. We've tweaked a couple things. The first thing we've done is we've switched our radar over so that I'm going to go ahead and point it down a little bit. The other thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to go ahead and actually fly towards the target until we get launched on. Now, normally when you're in an aircraft, you're supposed to maneuver when they fire weapons at you. I'm not going to maneuver at all. That's completely intentional on my part. There's the warning. The reason I'm not going to maneuver, of course, is because I want to see if we're able to pick up that radar on its way down, or the missile on its way down. So I've got my radar tilted pretty far down right now. You can see it's pushing, it's about 22 feet. It's going to be pretty good. I actually have to raise the radar just a tiny bit here. So we'll see whether or not we can pick up those missiles on the way in. Now keep in mind, the big thing people got to remember when you're seeing a missile is it's a very, 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 very fast object coming towards you. That means that for its Doppler shift, it's going to be extremely aggressive, which is actually going to help enhance our ability to detect it at a distance. Again, that's what these radars are optimized for. Oh, there's the warning. And if we're looking really, really carefully, let's see if I can zoom in here and see actually, like I always like to say, the fingers of death. That's okay. We'll be able to see it. Now, it's going to be too flat for us to see, but that's okay. All right, we're just kind of cruising along. There's the fingers. See the fingers? See the fingers? That's usually your warning that you've been fired upon. So I'm not going to do anything too aggressive here. I'll tip down a little bit. Again, my radar is tilted pretty far down. So if it's going to acquire, it's going to acquire pretty soon. We'll come within 20 miles there. There we go. We'll tilt with the radar even further down. Okay, so the radar's right off my nose now. I don't have anything there. Yes, I know I'm about to get struck by a missile. It's okay, though, because I turned God mode on because I was suspicious. Oh! Did you see that? No, I was not able to acquire that missile. Let me tip my radar up significantly more here. Again, I'm playing the tip the radar game, trying desperately to try to acquire where this thing is. All right, there's the other one. It's just launched. He's probably about 6 or 7 miles away, so I'll try to tip that radar down and try to look at him. And I'm having one heck of a time trying to acquire that missile. I see the missile. Like, I didn't expect to see it or anything like that. But it is definitely down there. And I just cannot, for the life of me, acquire it. Ignore the fact the missile is about to pass me. One of the best evasive techniques, by the way. All right, and I cannot... Oh, firing again. Bring it within 10 nautical miles here. And the other thing, too, is I can switch to dogfight mode. Let's switch to this dogfight mode. See if I can pick it up visually. And when you're in dogfight mode, it should be right there. It should be right there. Come on. Come on. I picked it up with the missile before I picked it up. Should be getting another launch warning. It's going to come right by me in a second. You'll see it. Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. See it? See it? Right there. So, as you can see, even in dogfight mode, there's no way I was going to acquire that. So one more thing we have to test, though, and can we visually acquire these things? All right. So the first thing we're going to do this time is, let me go ahead and flip on a couple things real fast so I don't have to stress. We are going to shut off our Rainier warning receiver. As you can see right now, it's giving me all sorts of warning. It's off. That's it. I have no warning whatsoever of whether or not we're going to be launched on. So we have to do everything visually here, which is, I don't know, that's nerve-wracking. That definitely creates a little bit of nervousness on my part here because I don't know when I'm going to be attacked. I have to just use my good old-fashioned pilot's eyes here. Build up a little bit of energy here just to kind of speed us along. And again, it would be very amusing if I were to suddenly be able to see them visually or something like that. While we're having fun, might as well have some fun, right? Yeah, we actually didn't want to lock onto that. That's kind of fun. Let's see here. It's an F-16, so I can go like that. I don't want to do that. Make you the source of interest. And of course, we could zoom in and stuff like that. Oh, I've just entered into his range of danger, so I'm going to start looking around for that missile launch here. There we go. Looking out my window, looking around. Again, I'm cheating a little bit. Is that? Yep, that's a launch. Whoa, I forgot how heavy we are. Turning. Give me some energy. Go ahead and put it on my beam here, even though I cannot see it. All right, let's see how we're doing. Whoa! Yep, see the launches? All right, so I can't see the missile itself. I see where the missile stopped flying. I don't see the missile. Do you see it? There it is. All right, we'll try to pause when we see the missile this time. See it? Okay, I got it. Whoops, I hate it. That's one thing I can't stand about DCS is when you pause. So the missile itself, I just lost it. It's right here. So if you look right here, this little teeny black dot is our missile. So I'm not 100% sure how far away that particular shot is. We can take a look at the time, though, so we can go check it. 8:01:54. 8:01:54. Remember 8:01:54. 8:01:54. Do you see it? Because I just lost it. There it is. See it? Whoop. Oh, that would have been a kill. 8:01:54. All right, let's go check that later. All right, let's take a look. So this is 8:01:54. Like you can see, the first missile had already ripped by me pretty aggressively here. This is right when we just saw it. And again, remember, this is optimum conditions with time and a little bit of warning I saw this thing. So you can see that right now we're 3 nautical miles away from that weapon that was fired. And you can see that very, 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 very clearly there. Look at that. That's exactly the position I was able to spot that thing. So remember, too, with this missile, I'm not looking at the nose of the missile. I'm actually looking in an oblique to this missile. And if you look at the engagement, which we're seeing here, and we can actually go ahead and unpause, you can see that it becomes very obvious because it's actually traveling at an angle to me so that I can see it very, very clearly. So as this particular weapon approaches, you can see it was a very clean hit here. Look at that. Mach 2 right into the side of me. Bam! I would have been dead. No choice on that one. Another SA-2 kill victory kind of a thing like that. And no amount of that stuff out the back would have helped us out either. So there's a lot to unpack here as far as, what's doing it right and things like that. Now, one thing I want to say, too, before I get too carried away, is Command does a really, 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 really nice job. It's absolutely an incredible program. I'm not just saying that because, they help me out with stuff and I help them out with stuff. It's just, it does a really amazing job. And one of the things that I always go back to, let me go back to DCS real fast, is that at the end of the day, what is the average situation that would happen with something? Now, if you had crews that were perfectly good at their job, with perfectly assigned equipment, with perfectly good preparation, with no stress, no frustration, no difficulties in control, no difficulties with visibility, it would make a lot of sense that, a lot of the relationships and a lot of the actual attacks themselves would check out on account of the fact that you'd have those sort of situations occurring just like you have inside the simulator itself. I think what makes it so darn challenging is, unlike in the sim here, where it's you've just got this little thing to worry about and you've got these optimum conditions, is that in Command, depending on what you actually have, can have a massive impact on that. Now, theoretically, I should be able to pick up that missile with this particular aircraft, as a small radar cross-section. But we also have no idea how they actually modeled that inside of the sim itself. It could be a simplified radar cross-section. In our example where we went ahead and used our eyes to be able to see the target, the reason we were so successful at seeing that particular target was because we knew exactly where where in the sky to be looking for. Now, if I'm in a panic trying to identify where that darn thing is that's taking shot at us, that would be very, very, very challenging to do on its own. So the other thing, of course, I would have done is I've stacked my deck a teeny tiny bit here, and I've actually activated the ECM that we have at our disposal. Now, one of my favorite things to actually bait a SAM-2 or something like that, and this is one of the differences that Command gets better, is the fact that that crew should never take a shot at me right now. If you take a look, I'm right inside their little threat circle. If they try to take that shot, they're wasting their time. So one of the things I can do here, if I want to kind of mess with them a little bit, is I can go ahead and put just a little tiny bit of angles on here and actually make it very, very interesting for them. There it is. Now watch this. Now all I'm going to do is notice, by the way, my antennas immediately went outside their maximum range. I'm going to go pull my nose up just a teeny tiny bit, and I'm just going to poke like this. I should be getting a warning. Now, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run the missile completely out of energy without any effort. Now, again, this is a huge difference between Command and DCS. In DCS, I can apply, these very specific strategies, but insanely, if you actually did the exact same engagement command, things would behave basically the same way. So you'll notice now I've still got a warning launch here. I've already broken the lock on them. There's the weapon. See it? It's right there. And do you see how both those just exploded? Now watch this. Now all I have to do now is turn back in, again, take my time. I'm no rush here. I'm just a handy dandy little F-16, just on its mission, kind of doing its thing like this, applying the exact same valid strategy that they actually would be using in Command, even though it would be looking a little different. Now, one of the things that forum post did discuss, and like I said, I just want to take a few moments to show you kind of how I deal with these kind of issues. The other thing is I could come over those mountains and surprise bomb him, and there's all sorts of fun things I could do here. One of the things he talked about in that post was whether or not, what are they going to do next? What do they recommend? Kind of a thing like that. And I think the problem would be is a lot of the solutions for what they could recommend would be either very, very challenging to implement in a way that makes everybody happy, or they'd be kind of arbitrary. Like one of the reasons, like we saw a minute ago, why I was so successful is the only thing I had to worry about was that one missile flying towards me. Now, if there were tons of missiles and there were people coming up, there's the launch again. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. There we go. Just going to pull my nose up just a little bit. There we are. All right. Let's see if we can get the launch. There's the launch. Again, in the real world, I can't zoom in like this. Where's the missile? There it is. See it? See it? I'll zoom right in on it. Again, this is with binocular vision here. This is not something you can do in the flight sim or in Command. So what I notice is it's run out of energy. What I could do is I could put just a teeny tiny bit of angles on it. Just see how it's staying in the same position on the canopy? See it? See it? See it? That was pretty good on my part. I like that. Hey, buddy, you only have 6 missiles. You can't do this all afternoon, but I certainly have plenty of time and fuel. So in conclusion, like I said, at the end of the day, a lot of things that could probably be implemented in order to eliminate this kind of behavior are going to end up with the same end result as what we would have done if we tried to kind of keep things as they were. And again, this is an extreme scenario. I'm using major micromanagement here in order to kind of do this. And I casually just flew under that missile like the punk that I was, kind of a thing like that. Very difficult to do when other people are shooting at you. So I guess if I had any recommendation or any sort of thought on how you could probably approach this problem, we'd have to come up with a way to basically simulate pilot workload. And I know for a fact that pilot workload it's pretty intense. One of my good friends there always said a pretty funny comment, and he says, "Oh yeah, back in the '60s when they hadn't invented pilot factors or human factors in flight, it's like, oh yeah, we hadn't developed them yet, so they weren't a problem back then." But you'd have to somehow come up with a way to simulate that overload. Plus, you'd have to simulate the fact that as an object gets smaller, it just becomes inherently more difficult to detect. Ooh, I don't see this one. Ooh, where is it? Where is it? Again, this is binocular vision. You're going to see a little poof of white. Oh, there it is. See it? See it? Flare. I'm just going to go like this. Whee! See it? See it? See it? See how it's starting to slide behind the canopy? Watch this. We just go like this, and watch this. It runs right out of energy and flies right behind us. Goodbye. So I'm going to stop playing around and go ahead and end the video. But as always, enjoy. Like I said, they're both fantastic products in their own right. And at the end of the day, if you had pilots this ridiculous and you want to micromanage this aggressively in command, you'd end up in the exact same result. Or, because of the abstractions in the way the actual missile engagement is simulated, you don't have to take all this time to fly around and do silly stuff. You can just let it all kind of do the math for you and give you the same end result. Enjoy.